Hello, Cubs, and welcome back to another episode of RPG Stories. It's what the people want, it's what they're here for, it's what they want to see, so I'm here to read more stories from either my subreddit, go check it out, or the RPG horror subreddit, okay? But these are all going to be horror. I got some short and sweet ones, and then I got a kind of a medium to a long one, and then we'll see if we have more at the end to go find another. But that's what we are doing. We're going to the subreddit. We are reading I Am Giving Advice. You know the drill. This is episode 41, I think. I don't know. Who cares what episode it is? Let's get to our disclaimer. These stories may or may not be real. That's not for me to decide. And even if they are fake, they still make good stories to give advice on. So remember that, everybody, okay? Just putting that out there. I am the Goblin King. I do all sorts of RPG stuff. I read stories, as you can see. I also play a slew of RPGs on a channel. Click on my name, watch that channel trailer to find out what else I do. Maybe subscribe and stick around. But maybe watch this video first if this is the first time you're seeing me. Because, you don't know what I'm going to be like. So watch till the end of the video. And then if you decide you want to stick around, hey, welcome to the team. And if not... Our first story comes from Dan the Man, 1805. Older player hijacks a campaign. What do I do? This all started when one of my friends invited me to a campaign of his. I was kinda thirsty for a campaign as I had mainly played in one-shots till then. So when he told me a mutual friend, we'll call D, and one other friend of his were in it, I was excited to meet him. First session comes around, and an important note. I was 16 at the time, and D was 18. DM was in his late 20s, so I thought his friend, let's call him Jay, to be about the same age, 20s, maybe early 30s. Well, to my surprise, I find a 50-something-year-old fellow who's been playing D&D since 3.5 edition. 3.5? That wasn't that far ago, was it? Put on screen when 3.5 was... Wasn't that like 2003? 2005? Maybe... No, that had to be 4th edition, because 4th edition tried to incorporate MMOs. I don't know. Put it on screen when 3.5 was released for D&D.
Wasn't that like 2003?
The first session goes well. I won't go too deep into the premise of the campaign, as that isn't very relevant to the story, but it's an isekai... Butcher that. Isekai... type, not butcher that much, but it's an isekai type story where the PCs are from other worlds entirely, finding themselves in this foreign world. But one thing I did notice was that Jay was constantly debating the DM on rules that were from 3.5 when we were very clearly playing 5e. I didn't think much of it, but it got slightly annoying. The DM told him it was 5e, but he just kept doing it. Second session rolls around, and I really start to see what kind of character Jay is playing. A wizard with the overall goal of learning all kinds of spells out there. Turns out he can use spells from other editions, and even other games, e.g. Pathfinder. At first I was confused as to why he could do that, but later on it was explained to me by the DM that it was an ability he had. Since the isekai characters could bring abilities from their own worlds, that was his. Another thing that came off as a red flag to me was that he said that the theater of the mind was for poor people, that D&D was meant to be played with minis. Either way, he was very critical of other players, constantly telling us how to play our own characters. An example is that he questioned why I don't use more spells other than Eldritch Blast when I was a warlock, a class notorious for having little to no spell slots. You could write it off as him trying to give it advice, but it comes off more condescending than helpful. Wow, we just have a little bit more of the story, but I just have to stop and talk about him being able to use spells from other editions. Look, if the DM allows it, and then he takes the spells and homebrews them to work in D&D, not just using the spell verbatim, but actually takes the time to take the spell that he wants from the other edition and translate it into D&D terms and make it work and keep it balanced for D&D, then that's completely fine. But if you're just straight up using the other spell in there, I mean, I get homebrew, but homebrew to an extent. And then Only poor people theater of the mind. I enjoy theater of mind. You know, I play Fabula Ultima. I like to play SMT3. There are a lot of TTRPGs out there that don't use them. Now, you could still use minis for this and just set them on the board. And I also prefer, you know, the less movement in a TTRPG, the more I find myself to like it. Now, I do play some very simple ones, like Ryutama has a very simple battlefield. I'm going to be running a one-shot of Dawn, and that also has a very simple battlefield. It's like 5x5 to 7x7, and that's all the squares. You don't gotta plan out these big maps. I found, personally, that when I have to run games like Lancer, I really do not like having to set up these big maps. Same thing with Cyberpunk, having to set up this gigantic map in order for the mechs to move around and to give all your players the options for either height differences or height advantages or whatever the game uses. I just found myself not enjoying that as much because it's much easier to prepare stats in a game where you don't have to worry about building the battlefield. Now, you can still build the battlefield in your mind, like theater mind, like adding obstacles and describing the environment. You don't get to skip out on that, but you can skip out on having to set up correct height measurements and counting the squares between your players and the enemies and having to do that every turn, and they have to stop and think about movement. Now, that could play a big part. That could be really fun to some people, but I just enjoy a more theatrical version of combat because it keeps the story moving along much faster, in my opinion. Sometimes, not all the time, but it can. That can what be it. I'm just gonna leave it there, and let's continue on with this story. Another quarrel I had with this player is that he's been whining for almost the entire campaign that we should switch from milestone to XP. And the DM said that he's seriously considering switching just to shut him up instead of putting it into a party vote, which I feel just shows the DM's bias towards the situation. One last thing I noticed is that he doesn't use any devices, like at all. And he complains that me and D use D&D Beyond instead of paper. He explains that that's basically a video game. We're playing a tabletop game. But when we do play, he wants to do XP and constantly reminds us to fill up water skins and rations, which I feel is the most video game-like aspect of D&D. I find that quite hypocritical. My real question is, what should I do? I can't ask the DM to kick this player because he's a friend of his. I feel like the DM is giving Jay some special attention and feel powerless to do anything. What are your thoughts? Well, if you watched my videos before, then this is no surprise, but talk it out. You have to sit down and talk to your DM and even talk to Jay about how you're not having fun. Now, I know that's a bit hard and it's much easier to say that than to actually do it, but if it's to the point that you're not having fun and you feel like you're powerless to do anything, then you need to talk to them about it. Or if you don't want to do that, then ask yourself, are you having fun with this? If you're having fun with this and it's not that big of an issue, then I guess keep playing. But if you're not having fun and it's a huge issue, then you just gotta cut your ties. If you don't want to talk to them, or if you don't think that talking to them will do anything, then you just gotta cut ties and just move on. Find a different game. I'm sure you and your other friend can go and find someone else to do a table. I know, again, much easier said than done, but that's sometimes it's just what you have to do. You know, no D&D is better than bad D&D. That's just plain of it. That's just how it is. Now, let's talk a little bit about the story. I know that older people tend to not want to change their mind as much. That's really going to be the hard part, but I mean, that's just how it is. Might as well not play with them at all if you're not going to have any fun, and I've already said that. Yeah, you get the idea, okay? That's my advice. Just talk it out. Oh yeah, and him complaining about not using devices at all. If some people want to use D&D Beyond, that's completely fine. It's just digital paper on a phone. That's literally all D&D Beyond is. As long as the DM checks it every once in a while to make sure they have everything correct and in order, it's good to go in there and check it every once in a while. And let's just move on. Our next story kind of hits a bit home, okay? If you're part of my group and you see this, open up your eyes. Even though I already tell you whatever, it's not that big of a deal. Our next story comes from Ataraxic. Did I say that right? Ataraxic89. Probably not. Get off your effing phone. A short, fresh, and ultimately pretty mild one. Invited to one-shot into the system I want to try. Find out 40 minutes before session. It's just me and one other player I know I don't particularly like. GM is already at the store. Set up. I'd feel bad canceling, so I go. Other players particularly meh, especially with making jokes out of character a lot. and even speaking as if from my character's point of view when hearing info while their character isn't present. After about 30 minutes, I notice they are looking down a lot and slow to respond sometimes. To be clear, it's me, dumb, and the GM in a small room. That's it. Later, I stand to stretch my legs and see them playing some Candy Crush-like game. Realize they've been doing that for more than half the session and continue for the rest. I tried to wrap up the session quickly and left before we even did the wrap-up scene. It sucked, not GM's fault really, but thankfully it was only 2.5 hours instead of the advertised 4. This person plays TTRPGs all the time. I don't get committing your time to do this if you can't actually be bothered to do it. This was a one-shot. No one was forcing them to be there, and it wasn't like part of a long-running group/campaign. Hey, wait. No one's forcing you to be there. That just right back at you, okay? If you find out that it's just going to be the GM and one other person that you know that you don't like, then why even show up? Just be like, hey, I thought we were going to have a bigger party than this. That's kind of what I wanted to play. Sorry, but I've got to cancel. And it's 40 minutes. I mean, it's an hour. The GM's already set up. But, you know, as a GM, you should try to plan for these. I mean, if you already know that most of your players are going to be missing, or if it's just one player and another, I wouldn't expect the other person to show up. I mean, D&D between 3 people is weird. I've done it a couple of times, and it's just really awkward. There's not a lot of momentum. I mean, we did it more than once just because our third person couldn't make it, so it was just ended up being us 3. It's like, okay, I guess we'll just do this other little side adventure. Nowadays, I just like, oh no, we can just wait till we have everyone there. That way, nobody misses anything, or we don't get over leveled, or we don't get items that the other person could be missing, or whatever the case is. But let's actually talk about what they're talking about, and they're talking about being on your phone at the table. Taking a call is one thing, answering a text is one thing, but when you're sitting there playing a game while your GM is trying to talk to someone, or explaining a scene, or describing something, it's really disheartening to look over and see somebody on the phone, because then to them, or for most GMs, it feels like you're not doing good enough, or you're not being engaging enough. And that's what it feels like to me. If I look up at the table and see people on the phones, I'm like, come on, it's like I'm trying to set up the scene. And I get like sometimes when a GM is talking to a person, I'm guilty of this. If it doesn't involve me, well, actually it depends on the context of the scene. I still try to pay attention most of the time. So think about how it looks whenever you're on your phone, okay? I'm not saying you can't be on your phone, just try to limit your time that you're on your phone, especially when the GM is describing a scene. Now, if 2 characters, or if the GM and a character are role-playing and your character isn't present, then you could kind of be on your phone then, okay? You didn't hear that from me, because I get it. It doesn't involve your character, but I mean, the decision that character can make could impact the story too. So I'm just saying, I just always pay attention just because I like the stories that everybody's characters are going through. That's just me, okay? That's it. That's all I'm saying. And with that, let's move into our last story. Our last story comes from the Doughboy. How do I handle being consistently sidelined in a large rotating RP/TTRPG group? Yeah, boy. You know me. I like 3 to 4 players. 5 is okay, but anything more is like, nope. I don't want to play in a 6-player group or whatever. That just sounds like it takes forever. I don't even want to play in a 5-player. Just 5 players, an additional player sounds like it takes, we already have long sessions with just 3 players. So if we have a 4th player, no big deal. 4 players, that's good enough. But then 5 players, I don't know. That's pushing it. I don't really want to do that. So let's just find out what's going on here. I am part of a somewhat large online RP/TTRPG group of around 13 to 16 people. Did you say somewhat large? That's pretty large. I don't know. That's pretty large for a TTRPG. Maybe it's what do those say? Marshes? I forget. It's been forever since I actually watched any TTRPG thing, because I'm me. I'm the TTRPG now. I don't have to consume that content. I make that content. It's me. Subscribe for more. We call our campaigns lores because they are mostly theater of the mind storytelling with character sheets, but not always traditional TTRPG mechanics. We switch between different settings like modern fantasy, Star Wars, high fantasy, magic fantasy, and realistic setting. Wait, what's the difference between high fantasy and magic fantasy? High fantasy is high fantasy because it has a bunch of magical elements. You know what? Explain to me in the comments below if you know the difference between the 2 genres. Anyways, let's continue on. I have been in this group for over 2 years, and I am trying to figure out whether I'm being unreasonable for wanting to pull back. The biggest issue is that there is almost no structure, who would have guessed. There is no real start time. Things happen whenever the DM feels like running something. I usually show up in call around 9 to 10 a.m. while I work from home. Some people trickle in during the day, but when the DM appears, people are suddenly available. Then the group often gets distracted and the actual story does not start until somewhere between 9 p.m. and midnight. Most nights go until 5 a.m. if we actually start. What? 9 to 10? And then when the DM shows up, what is going on with this group? 9 to 10 and then show up and it's what? And then 9 p.m. and midnight and then what? Are you guys just playing all day? What? I guess that's how your group wants to play. Then I guess that's how it's going to play. Let's continue reading. With 13 to 16 players, turns are usually based on alphabetical order by character name. My characters are often in the middle of the order, so I commonly end up waiting for hours and still not getting a turn. I even once made a character with an A first and last name to try to get earlier turns, but the turn system changed to starting from Z first. I know that sounds petty, but after repeatedly staying up extremely late and still not getting a chance to play, it started to feel like the only way to participate was to game the turn order. Oh my gosh, this sounds horrendous. What 2 years? You did this for 2 years? Why? It must have been a really good story. This is is this real? I don't know. I don't know if this is real. I can't. I'm like befuddled. There's no way. I'm like, there's no way this could be real, but this could be real. We're just gonna keep reading on. Most other players' turns seem to last around 1 to 2 hours. Why is it taking people 1 to 2 hours? What do I want to do? Why is it the DM having to process it and then he spits it back out? Oh my gosh. Okay. We're just gonna keep reading. Most other players' turns seem to last around 1 to 2 hours. When I get a turn, I am often lucky to get 30 minutes to an hour. It is frequently interrupted by the DM getting pulled away, getting distracted, or needing to leave. A recent example. My turn was cut short about after 40 minutes because the DM needed to go to bed. He said he would pick it up the next day. That was 18 days ago, and someone else still got a turn later that same night. Why? Why are you still here? Gob explodes. That's... I said to keep reading, but this is just insanity. Why is it turn second so long? Okay. Another issue is how often we switch campaigns/settings. In the last year, we have probably done somewhere between 13 and 22 different lores. Some last a month, some a week, and sometimes we switch more than once in the same week. There have even been times where we changed settings multiple times in the same day. These arcs are usually meant to last months, but we often do not even get through every character's introduction before switching. This can't be real. This has to be fake. I refuse to believe this is real. That's it. Gob's fake stamp of approval. No, wait. Gob's stamp of fakeness. Approval. Gob's stamp of fakeness. I refuse to believe this is real. This is like this is like the third time actually. Out of all the episodes, this is the only time I'm saying this is fake. Okay, whatever. I say we keep reading. This is the last time. We're actually just going to just read to the very end. Or not. There's still a lot to go. Anyways, there's one campaign we keep returning to that has lasted over 6 months. In that one, my character has been heavily sidelined despite me putting a lot of work into him. I make character documents, backstories, ideas for the DM to use, and I commission art of my characters and teammates. I genuinely care about the stories and want to participate. Well, when you have 13 to 16 people, and all of them might be doing the exact same thing, it's going to be kind of hard for the DM to actually work in 13 to 16 people. In that long-running campaign, my character went through a major traumatic event where he was severely burned, disfigured, lost limbs, and is now only alive because of machinery. He operates a robotic body just to have some version of a normal life. I'm not against consequences or dark storytelling. I actually like serious character arcs. What frustrates me is that other characters have survived similar dangerous events with little injury or even gained power from them, while mine suffered permanent consequences and then still barely got focus or follow-up afterward. That is the part that makes me feel stuck. I do not want to be the main character, but I do want the effort and consequences attached to my character to matter. Right now, it feels like I get the suffering without the story payoff. That's your issue? That's your biggest problem right now? I mean, I get it, it all plays into this, and you feel like you're getting sidelined, but I feel like the 13 to 60 people turns taking hours. I'm gonna keep reading before I get in circles. Thanks, Mickey Mouse. I have brought this up before with the DM and others in the group, but it usually gets brushed aside. Who would have guessed? I've offered help and even made a scheduling format / Google Doc so players could have set times or a better turn system. The DM never would open. Who would have guessed it's 13 to 16 people? You're gonna have a hard time lining all those people up. The common excuse is that not enough people are available even when most of the group is there because the DM wants to wait for one specific person? Oh my gosh, who would have guessed? One of the people we wait on the most is the DM's girlfriend, who tends to have an important character in each campaign but often goes to sleep before things start. The DM also gets distracted playing games, and even after the person we were waiting for arrives. From my perspective, there is favoritism. The DM says he keeps notes, but it often does not seem like he does. Again, very hard for 13 to 16 people and then trying to stack a story or multiple stories on top of that. Some players get a lot of attention, flexibility, and follow-through. My messages, documents, and character ideas often get ignored or acknowledged with okay, and then move past. If other players say they cannot go, they are often promised a turn later. If I say I'm busy during a certain time window, that somehow becomes the only time I could have gone that day, despite me being available most of the day. Other people are frustrated too, but many of them still get more turns than I do, so the frustration fades for them. The group also tends to excuse the DM because he does a lot for the group, but from my perspective, the actual experience has become more disappointing than fun. This has also started affecting me outside the game. The group and these stories were supposed to be something I looked forward to, but lately they have become a major source of stress and depression for me. Leave, I find myself getting excited, showing up, waiting around for hours, and then ending the night feeling ignored, disappointed, or like I wasted my time. Have you not felt this for 2 years with 13 to 16 people every time have you explained turn after turn? I'm not trying to like victim blame or anything, but I mean, come on, 2 years of doing this, you gotta draw the line. So I would, after a month where hours are taking I didn't get out of there. I know it is just a game to some people. Yeah, it is, it's rude to say it is just a game, but it really is just a game. You're supposed to have fun. You're supposed to be doing stuff and playing and all this sorts of stuff, not waiting hours just for your turn or your turn never to show up that night, spending your time sitting there doing nothing. You're supposed to be doing stuff. It is just a game you're supposed to have fun in. But when you care about the story, the characters, and the friendships around it, it starts to hurt when a pattern keeps repeating. Then cut it off now so you don't get attached. Move on and find a different online group. There are plenty out there with way less people, and you can actually have a say in what is happening to your character and in the story, and you don't have to wait hours for your turn, or days even. Recently, I started giving myself a midnight cutoff. If nothing's happening, things are too slow, or I feel ignored, I just leave without saying goodnight. I am also pulling back from making extra documents, ideas, character work because it feels like none of it gets used. Then find a table where it will get used with a good DM. Easier said than done, but you have to look and you have to leave this table before you can start doing that. I'm trying to figure out what the healthy move is here. Leave! Am I being unreasonable for pulling back from this group? No! Is this just what happens in very large TTRPG groups? Or is this a table management problem that probably will not change unless the DM actually wants it to? It's a 13 to 16 people in TTRPGs where turns already take 10 plus minutes in a group of 4 people. Not every table is the same, but that's usually, the medium and the average in turns. That's just how it is. How would you handle being invested in the story and characters, but feel like your time and effort are not being respected? I would take my story and characters or whatever, and I would leave, and I would do something else with it. What can I do to improve the situation, or do I just cut my losses? Cut your losses, because you will not gain anything from this. Hey guys, this is the end of the video. What did you think? Leave a comment down below. If you want to see more stuff like this, then subscribe. And thank you, OPs, for uploading your stories. And thank you for making it this far in the video. Leave in the comments what you guys would have done, or what your favorite or least favorite story was. And if you want to see more content like this, then subscribe. I have a whole playlist of other RPG stories. Go check that out. And I also do other kinds of content. So click my name. And if you want to see all mishmash of RPG and TTRPG stuff, then subscribe. And with that, I'm out of here. I hope you gobs have a lop of a day. May your adventures be well organized and well timed, or at least to the point that you're actually playing a game.